Hello, creatives. Welcome back to the Girl Gang Craft podcast. I'm really excited today because we have Laura Wong from Lady Moon Co. And we go back a bit. I don't even remember like how we met through the internet, of course. And then like you did our LA show and then you did our Oakland show. I don't know. Maybe we like did a pin trade back in the day. That sounds familiar.
I feel like it was a pin trade. Ah,
Yeah,
the
the
pin
witchcraft.
trade days.
Yeah, like your little glue gun. That's in witchcraft.
I
So good.
think I have your ovaries.
Yay.
It was definitely in that era of we're all, trading and supporting each other and posting about each other's shit. Like that was a thing. That was
Yeah,
fun.
love it. I know, I miss those days. So, Laura, who are you and what is Lady Moon Co? Introduce yourself to our audience.
Well, hello everyone. My name is Laura Wong, and I am the owner and designer behind Lady Moon Co., Lady Moon Company. We are an apparel brand, apparel accessories, lifestyle brand for witches by witches. Um, I make shit for witches. Yes, that
Um,
is me.
Great. And so like how did you start this? Tell us a little bit about the Lady Moon Co. origin story.
Okay, so I am a trained actor, performing artist. That's my background is performing artistry. I'm a theater kid. I was an actor in LA. I've been a real estate agent. Like these things, it wasn't like I grew up thinking I want to own a business someday and be a witch. Like I've been practicing witchcraft my whole life, since I was a little kid. I self-taught myself and, I've developed that over the years, blah, blah, blah. It's something I've always been very passionate about and very secretive about. So, acting, if you've ever been to an audition or acted in LA I did it for like 5 years and I got burnt out. Um, so I was like, what else can I do? Besides I worked for a production company. I did, normal jobs and worked for retail stores, and I just didn't want to work for anybody else anymore. And my husband is an entrepreneur and he sort of encouraged me to figure something out. And that's when my first idea was, sorry, it's like the very long version of this story,
We love
but
long
this is
version.
what the podcast is about, right?
Yeah,
It's okay.
exactly.
So my first business idea was, oh fuck, what was it called? It was basically to make tiny something tiny that's a work of art, right? I was like, what's accessible? Rubber stamps. So my first business idea that I even got what's the fucking name? What is that called when you get a name? Like you register your name,
Trademark,
not a trademark, like before that. I
like
can't
your
think of it right
sole
now.
your sole prop or
Yeah,
your
you go to the
like
court
your name
county
secret.
whatever and you I want to say IBN, but that's not it.
Oh, your EIN.
ISBN. I'm writing a book, so I have like book shit in my head. Um,
You're writing a book?
okay. I'm writing a book. Yes,
Yeah.
I am. Okay. I know. So, okay. Back on track. Sorry, I'm a Gemini. So, I this rubber stamp business and I'm like, this is fucking dumb. Like no one's going to want to buy my little rubber stamps. Although I do actually want to make rubber stamps, but there's not a huge demand for these rubbers. And then I was like, what else is small? Oh, pins, like lapel pins. I'm like, oh, that's a thing. Like I used to go to Disneyland and people have the lanyards, and that's sort of a trend that's never really gone away. Surprisingly, it hasn't, knock on wood, gone away. But I was like, I want to make things for witches because at the same time I'm figuring out what the fuck I want to do. I, as Laura, am like, there's nothing for witches that fits my aesthetic and my style at the time. Um, I grew up in the 90s where there was like Spencer's gifts with the only option was like a bloody demon headed pentagram with blood dripping down it. And there's nothing wrong with that. Don't get me wrong. But it was not my vibe. So I was like, fuck it, I want to make stuff that I would want and what I want to see exist, because at the time there was not many witch shops. This is 20 around 20 tail into 16, 2017 is when I started Lady Moon Co. So yeah, I made
Same timeline.
huh?
We have the same timeline.
Oh yeah, well maybe that's probably why we connected, because
Yeah.
at the time there was just entrepreneurship on Instagram. It was there, but it wasn't like it is now. It's definitely that time. Maybe it was just a coincidence, but in my little niche community, that's when that boom kind of started, as far as I'm concerned. So yeah, I made a pin representing like the four elements, like a very simple pin, and I made a few more and started with 3 pins, and I launched October 1st, 2017. So that's kind of the story. And then people actually liked it.
And so, did you quit a job at the time, or so you were auditioning, so you maybe didn't have a steady job at that point?
I worked at a like an I don't even know what you'd call them, a store. I worked at I won't name them because I don't like them, and it didn't end well, although I want to name them. But they're a store, a cool store that was vibey, that I worked at the time, I think. And so I did not quit. No, I absolutely did not quit my job, because as you know, you can't just like quit your day job at first when you start doing this shit. Like you have to, it took a long time to be a full-time thing for me. I even after like a year into the business still wasn't full-time, and I was, in fact, that's when I became a real estate agent. I was like, okay, this isn't quite paying the bills. Like I live in Los Angeles. It's expensive. Um, what else can I do on the side? And so I got my real estate license, and I was gonna I was gonna market myself as the realtor witch, and I was gonna be like, let me assess your home, and like let me teach you how to cleanse it, and blah blah blah, and like all these things, and sort of right after I got to the point where I had to make a decision between the two, because Lady Moonco started to pick up this real estate agent shit, is a very steep learning curve. If you've ever done that or know anybody, that anybody's listening, you know, like you can't just half-ass being a real estate agent. Like it's a steep learning curve. It's easy, relatively easy. It was easy for me to get to pass the test. But then after that, it was like, oh, what forms? What the fuck does all this mean? So I had to pick, and I was like, well, goodbye. I'm obviously going to water this plant, because this is the plant I want to be watering, you know? So to answer your question, no, I did not quit any job. Yeah.
Okay, so backing up a little bit, tell me about your witchcraft journey. You said you were self-taught and you discovered witchcraft and magic when you were little. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Sure. I was not brought up in a household that was religious at all. I didn't have to go to church. I didn't have, not that that is a fact. It was a factor for me because it gave me the freedom to explore and to just completely without bias and without any sort of influence figure that stuff out for myself. So I didn't know, what the name of it was when I was a kid, but I definitely had a connection to the natural world that was different than other people. Um, and I would communicate with, this is going to sound whatever, I'm a witch. I would talk to the moon, and the moon would talk to me. And was, that energy was my calling, and my way. It was just called to me and was there for me, and supported me. And it's why my company is named Lady Moon Co. It's just I've always had like that's like the center of I feel like for everyone, every witch it's a little bit different. Like what got you into it? Was it cultural? Was it like something you were taught, which is absolutely beautiful? Like what was your in? And for me it was the moon. So, that's why. Did I answer your question? Oh no, okay. So then okay, so little witch Laura doing stuff, burning things. And then I discovered, then again, I'm a 90s kid. The Craft came out. It was like the witch boom of the 90s. And I discovered like all these Wicca books and these like super problematic books now, but like back then that was all we had, like just this influence of this super boom of witchcraft. So I picked up that and I was like, oh, that's what I am. Like, that's where I got the term witch. And I was maybe around like 11 or 12 or 13 and started heavily experimenting with that with friends, but then they kind of got over it, but I just I never got out of that habit or that phase. It's
Yeah,
just sort of
what kind of
developed.
practices did you have?
Um, I would just do whatever was in the books. A lot of the time when I got the books, I was like, well, I need to follow these spells. So I remember one of the first things I did was like I painted hearts on a rock. I remember that. I remember burning a lot of things experimentally. There was like candle wax all over my floor, like my carpeted floor as a kid, and my mom was all pissed off about it. Um, it wasn't. It was things that I read in the books mostly in the beginning. But then from there, I learned I'm not Wiccan personally. No offense to anybody that is, but it's an organized religion with like boundaries, and I'm not a part of that. So once I learned that, I sort of just said, well, fuck that. And I started doing my own thing, um, which has developed into what I do today. So, yeah.
And what sort of practices are you drawn to these days?
So funny. This is sort of what the book I'm writing is about. Um, I operate completely on intuition, honestly. I don't read spell books. As a creatrix and a creative being, that's sort of the platform that I jump off of when I do magic. I call it spontaneous magic. I work in the moment with the things that are around me. And most importantly, like when I feel called, I don't operate on like every fucking full moon I got to do something. Like I don't believe that you get the best results from doing things when they're on a tight schedule or an expected schedule. So, um, yeah, I mean, yeah, I'm trying to remember like the last sort of thing I did, but they're often really not because we do magic all day, right? We do magic every day without knowing it. We perform spells and rituals without knowing it. So something I do every day is I take a shower. And when I do that, I have the awareness and the intent that that shower is not only cleansing my body, but it's cleansing like my insides and my spirit and my soul and resetting me. So just that added intention is a spell. It's things like that that I do more often than like the big grandiose rituals. Does that make sense?
It does. I very much identify with that.
Oh,
Yeah.
I love it.
I
Yeah.
love I love this, yeah, this idea of just magic is happening all the time. Um, whether it's intentional or not, or even just the act of bringing intention into some of these everyday things, can be really powerful and magical. Um,
Hmm.
and just, trying our best to live an intentional life, you know?
Yeah, well, that's part of the reason why I'm writing the book I'm writing, and I want to encourage people. I'm like gonna cry. I want to encourage people to use their own creative powers and intentions and just use their own imaginative like qualities to create their own practice that can be for them. And it's not like bowing to like the expectations of witch talk or other things that are, we're just so inundated with other people's shit, and it's just not the way I taught myself. So there's this constant like the doors hitting the, I don't know what I'm doing with my hands, but if anyone's watching you can see what I'm doing. It's just there's a lot of pushback I have internally about that. Sometimes it gets a little off balance for me, so I want to remind people that they can, you know, their magic is like personal and it's for them. And yeah, it's important. I think it's important to remember, especially now.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of imposter syndrome in the witch community as well,
Yes.
business
Yes.
community. Like, I'm not witch enough, or I'm not a real business, or whatever. And really stepping, or even an artist. I'm not an artist, right? All of these things that, like,
Yes.
well, other people are that. I'm not that. And like, that's a bunch of bullshit that we all need to work through and like step into our power
That's
with these things. And then it's going to work better, right? For
yes.
all of those words, stepping into being an artist, stepping into being a business owner, being a witch.
Yes.
Um, there's power in like taking those words on.
And witchcraft goes great with being a creative, because witchcraft to me is all about knowing your power and knowing that it comes from inside of you, and that it can be a little bit of a lonely, thing historically. There's a lot of
Currently,
solitary
all of it,
witches.
especially for the femme
Historically, it's
community.
a little isolating.
Yeah.
Um, but I think there's a reason for that ultimately. And it's been really interesting seeing the communities that have formed from social media and how it's affected witches today in really, really fucking amazing good ways. Like I can have a business and support myself through witchcraft, and also in really shitty ways where it's like people making people feel like they're not enough, or of course we're going to have those sort of things, but yeah, I do think that ties in with being a creative, absolutely, and not being. I just like recently felt like I was a real artist. I had someone once tell me who was a person I worked with early on that is no longer in my life, say that I was not a real artist. Like someone actually told me that, a fellow like person, and I was like, wow.
Person.
I don't think real artists tell other people they're not real artists. But okay. So I've been through a lot of shit and I've worked through that, and it's not only just like not feeling like an artist, but knowing that if you design things, but you maybe pay other people to execute that art, you're still an artist. You're a designer. And
Yes.
especially because I'm not a trained fucking fine artist. I'm gonna be real honest right now. I hand draw things now that I would never imagine that I could draw. I just drew an entire deck that's a food oracle deck, and it's still in production right now, but I drew everything, and it was so fucking rewarding to just do that and be like, I fucking did that, because I think the thing about being an artist that people like, a fine artist, like drawing like visuals, is that again, like witchcraft, like what's unique about that is your perspective and your style. The way you draw a line, if it's fucked up looking, that gives it character. Like like it's interesting to me having zero fine art drawing experience. Like we all have a natural ability to express ourselves that way, and it's been really fucking interesting seeing people actually really like the way I draw shit. I have limitations and I get help when I have those limitations because I'm a fucking designer. But people need to realize that if you're like, I want to start an apparel company, but I can't draw, try. And if you can't, hire a designer. There are designers that you pay for their work to help you bring your vision to life. That is what ginormous corporations do all the time, and fashion designers, like things like that. People don't realize they get hung up with like the, oh, I have to draw it myself for it to be real. And it's like, no, that's what designers do. They see the big picture and they have help to bring that vision to life a lot of the time. You know what I'm saying? And that took me a long time to realize,
I so
for
identify with
sure.
all of this. I mean, because similar like outputs of product or like systems for some of.
Yeah.
I'm not screen printing things myself. I'm drawing things, I'm sending them to, the screen printer. I'm not sewing the shirts. I'm not sewing my little uterus pouches anymore. And I haven't like picked up a paintbrush in a few years and was really feeling like, okay, I'm not an artist anymore, which is like some BS because like everything I do is art, but I feel
Yeah.
like I'm more of an artist now that I've like dove into ceramics for fun, which is like also some bullshit. And like, but it's interesting. It's so interesting. Like, where do we get these ideas and like how we can take these on and like just make us feel shame or guilt or like not enough for all of these things. And I think like sort of taking it back, a lot of our community doesn't they want to make everything, right? They don't feel like it's their product if their hands aren't making it. And we're not going to grow that way. You can only make so many things. You're not going to grow. You're not going to be able to scale.
Well, that's what entrepreneurship comes in. That's where being a businesswoman comes in. And I totally get if you're like, I draw the paintings. That's a different type of artist. And a lot of the time you'll see that with famous fucking artists. Like they weren't able to expand on their shit. Because they're brilliant at one thing and they won't kind of, maybe it's not for them to let go of that control. Maybe that's what makes their paintings special. But if we're talking about owning a business and grow and being a business owner and creating something and wanting it to grow, you have to do that.
Have to
You
outsource.
have to.
Have to outsource in some
You
way.
have to. Yeah.
Um, do you want to tell us a little bit about like your design to production process?
Yeah. Is there anything like in particular? I have so much shit.
I
I guess
think
it's just go ahead.
I just think people are like again stuck on the outsourcing thing. So I think they would
Okay.
be interested in hearing like how you design things and then like I mean, if you don't want to like share who your manufacturers are, but just like how you even go about finding
Yeah.
manufacturers and like working with them and getting them into your hands.
Right. So, well, obviously it's an idea, you know. Um, but yeah, they're absolutely right to be like, how the fuck do I source this? Because sourcing manufacturers is the number one most time consuming thing if you haven't done it a bajillion times like I have. A lot of things in this world, in this country, are produced in China. Full transparency, a lot of my stuff is produced in China. And I've gotten really good at communicating with Chinese manufacturers. So Alibaba is a big source for me to find really random shit that I can afford to make. Because quite honestly, when I can make something in the US and get something made affordably for my business, I will absolutely. And of course, I would like prefer that, but I personally don't have a problem with. I have to outsource like that internationally. Like I have to because it's affordable for a small ass business. You know what I mean? If I got to the point where I was like fucking Jeff Bezos and shit, like I would change that, or like think about
Make your own
reevaluate
factory
that.
in
But yeah, first of all, you got to be comfortable with that. If you're making things like lapel pins and like trade secret, there's there's a lot of middle middle companies, like middlemen companies that speak really good English and they're very like user friendly that you can go through to get pins made. You will pay for that service and that's built into the cost of the pins, but you can do that. I can't think of any right now, but they're there. Like you've heard of them, right? But if you go direct to the source and you can communicate with those lovely people. I love them. I fucking talk to them all the time, and they're like my friends because they're people too, and they're just doing their jobs, and they're great salespeople, and their English is fucking bomb. And even if it's not, you learn how to communicate. And yeah, it's I've lost my train of thought, but
How do
that's
you
the way you can save. It's cheaper to go direct. It just is. That was my point.
and like so are you working with the same factories over and over again? Or are you like switching things up for new products? Tell us a little bit about that.
It depends if I have two, for instance, I have two pin manufacturers I ping pong back and forth with because one of them, I know one of them will do like the very intricate cuts on a pin and designs, and one of them is like, nah, we're not gonna do that. So if pins are small, sometimes the art, if it's intricate and there's a lot of cutouts, is what we call cutouts in the pin biz. The
Like a
cutout
really rough
spaces,
one?
that one actually doesn't have any. I'm trying to, like the pentacle wreath pin I have, where it's like a star with essentially a circle around it, right? But the in between little star bits need to be
Mhm.
cut out of the design. So that's a really intricate one that I had to go to the other manufacturer for. I only go to them for that kind of shit, and when I need something that's a little cheaper, because the main manufacturer I go to is a little more expensive. So it's like you kind of just get to know like the quality of a place, and if you build a relationship with them, there's often like benefits of like rewards, or like just knowing them and trusting them, like, so a lot of the time it's the same manufacturers. But for instance, if I'm like like right now I'm on the hunt for the most random shit. I want to make like a crystal ball shaped pill cutter for medications.
Yes. Sign me
No
up.
one fucking steal that that's listening. I will find you.
Copyrighted right here.
But like I'm a Lexapro lady, okay? And I have to cut my pill in half because I'm on a 2.5 every day. And every time I look at it, I'm like, this is so ugly. And just like, I want it to be magical.
Little
And
squiggle
so,
lines and you're like, yeah.
yeah. And then it gets all, I just don't like it. They don't have aesthetic pill cutters, and I want it to exist. So that's hard. If you're like, I want that to exist, my process would be, okay, fuck, I'm not an engineer. I can barely render a 3D mock-up. I can't do that. What the fuck? I can't do that shit. So right now I'm like, okay, I need to sort of sketch out the anatomical layout of a crystal ball shaped pill cutter. I haven't had time to do that because then I have to take the pill cutter I have and sort of, so I can send it to them to be like, can you make something like this? Because they'll do, a lot of the times they'll do different color variations, engraving. They have the product already, and they're like, what can we stamp on it? What color can we change to make it personalized? But for me to be like, hey, can you make a whole new fucking thing, is going to be probably an expensive like mold fee and complicated for them. But I think it's worth it. And also just getting them to agree to do it will be difficult. So, and them, I don't know who them is. I have to basically, you will find pill cutter manufacturers, you will find them, but finding somebody that would make that for me is another story. So it's just the right balance of like, will they do it? Is it cost effective within reason? What's their minimum order quantity? Because a lot of the time with Alibaba, they're big. But I
You
would
get
say if
a sample probably
you,
for something
sorry,
like that.
what?
You probably get a sample for something like that.
Yeah, it's mostly photos, honestly. I'm not like a send me a sample person. I'm like, just show me a fucking picture. Let's speed
Love it.
this along. But you absolutely can pay for samples. Um, and then just seeing if they'll say yes, honestly. And in the past, things I've looked for, similar things, like you have to message like 20 different people sometimes.
Yeah, what about your cloaks?
Those were handmade by my friend Sabrina, who's a seamstress here in LA.
Awesome. Okay.
So those are really special things that are expensive as fuck to make. Because you're paying like a person here, it's your friend that has, you know, it's just it's expensive when that and then I might know my audience's price points aren't super high. So you have to take that into consideration too. It's like, will people even buy this? And I underpriced
I'd love to
them for
hear
what
more
I
about.
paid. So
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
no, go ahead. It's fine.
I would love to know a little bit more about your pricing, and also, I know you have some wholesale
Yeah.
accounts.
Yes.
How do you price your items?
Well, wholesale typically is half of retail, so that's what I do. Um, and then I look at like the market value of things a lot of the time. Be like, what are other people kind of charging for this? And with like something like a pen, it's like, okay, what's about that? And then, yearly, I sort of reevaluate like where when I didn't the first time I raised my prices was like last year, I think, where I was like, okay, like the economy. But something like a cape, it's it's like, okay, I how much did I pay? Because the thing with the capes is like I'm sourcing the material, I'm sketched it out, and then she made me a custom pattern, and then there's the labor, and I have to get buttons, and it's a lot of work. It's a lot of work. It's actually why I'm steering away from apparel like completely this year. And I say
Super.
completely, I probably will make a few, but
Okay.
yeah, like the capes I don't make anymore because I can't afford them.
And, like, your shirts, just your, like, sort of screen printed shirts, are those made overseas or are those local?
Those are local. I have my printers are local. I have a friend who owns a print shop, so I support him. So like things like that, like when you can, there's a lot of local printers that are great, and a lot of the time the quality is better because I haven't had good luck with overseas. I did one batch of tanks and I fucking hated them. I do not recommend apparel overseas. Like I don't. For some reason, I haven't had good luck with that. Maybe I'm just looking in the wrong places, but like I didn't have time to vet 20 different t-shirt. They had a really cute like tank on the mock-up, and I was like, "Ooh, that's really cute." Like the fit of it looked really nice and the shape of it. And then I got it and it was completely baggy and not the same thing. And I was like, "Damn it." I've had really good luck, but this time I got screwed. But luckily on Alibaba and a lot of other platforms, you can request a refund or a I got a partial refund for them because they weren't even the same color print that I wanted. Like it was, and I'm very thorough about this is exactly what I want. This is the hex. This is the whatever. Like you have to be really, like be real specific. And I was like, no, this is, and I'm the first and only time I've ever done that, but it was really bad. So
That's good to know.
yeah,
Okay, so
yeah.
tell us about your marketing strategy. Also maybe a little bit about your you're laughing.
Laughing. Marketing strategy.
You have one girl working for you, right? Or you have a few
Yes,
people?
Feather.
Okay, Feather.
Feather is my only employee. She's amazing. Um, I had, can you hear me? My ear thing's falling out.
Yeah, it's just a
My
little
ear
dry.
holes are a weird size. I don't know what's happening. Okay. Um, Feather's amazing. Feather is my assistant. She does my customer service, which is essential for my mental well-being. I could not I could not keep doing this if I had to answer customer emails. There's no way. So Feather deals with that. She also does orders for me, and things I'm bad at. I basically have her do things I suck at. And that's what you should do when you hire somebody. I fuck up orders a lot. Like I'll mix up things. I don't, for whatever reason, I think I'm a little dyslexic or on the spectrum. It's fine. But when I read, I skip things, and it's sometimes my brain just tells me people ordered 3 of something when they ordered 6 or whatever. Like, it's just, yeah, that used to piss me off a lot, because when you do your best at something and you know you're doing the best you can and it's still not enough and it's not correct, it sucks. So that's why I hired Feather, and then she's become like, I'll like bounce ideas off of her. It was her idea for us to make the croc charms, which is insane. Um, she's like my best friend. So and yeah, it's just like a nice little friends. So yeah, but I would like to hire somebody else, but you know, when it's slower, which it has been this year, and when people don't have money to buy witch tchotchkes, I do things myself when I can, you know. I do a lot. I do all the marketing myself. I don't pay for ads at all. That's not something I'm like, we should never pay for ads, but that's something I'd actually like to work on this year. A goal of mine is to have somebody that knows email marketing really well and knows like SEO stuff and all that shit. I would like to have someone like look at that, and just because I know I would benefit from it. I just don't. A lot, I guess a lot of it is Instagram and word of mouth and
How many
having multiple platforms.
multiple platforms? What does that
Like, I
mean?
have an Etsy shop and a website
Yeah.
and a fair, which is a wholesale website. So I'm not just operating off of one thing. I think Etsy has saved my ass in the past year. Etsy
Mm.
and Fair have been incredible for me. Etsy sucks, but it brings in the foot traffic so well. I can't complain, honestly. It's it's been really a nice constant source of income when my shop wasn't, like Etsy would make more than my shop, you know. So,
But you don't direct people
yeah.
there for your social. You sort of have that separate as a thing going on.
I direct them. I feel like people sometimes prefer Etsy,
Interesting.
and they're just Etsy people and they like their Etsys. And so I do direct them in my bio link to Etsy, like all the things. Like, but our Shopify and our ladymoon.co website is the first thing for sure. That's like the hub. And then I feel like Etsy is like a little offshoot where I put things that I have a lot of quantities of. Like, I don't put apparel on Etsy.
Hmm.
Apparel is a nightmare. I don't wish on anyone. The sizing, the keeping track of what's in stock, and I have fucked up on inventory doing that so many times that it would be a nightmare to split, because I have to split the quantities between the inventory between Etsy and my shop. Pins, like, oh, I ordered 300 pins. Oh, okay, well, that's easy math. Put half and half, or put, if you know that you sell more of something on one platform, put more of it on the platform. But apparel is, no, I'm done with that for now. Fuck that.
Do you think you get most of your traffic from social media or email or a
Social
combination
media,
of social media?
100%. But I have been working on my emails, like campaigns, like this year and last year. Definitely been, huh?
I've been getting them.
Yes. Oh, good.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're not perfect, and I'm not like, oh, I'm so good at this, but like I don't know, they get the job done, you know? But I know there's an art to it, and I know there's analytics and all this shit. I'm just not an analytical brained person. I'm like, do I feel like this is the time? Yes, send. Do I feel like this is the now? Send. And I think that there's something to that, but I also think there's something to being very like looking at analytics. And people ask me all the time, like, what are your views and per week or whatever the fuck? And I'm like, I have no idea. I don't, but that bogs me down, and I can't do that. I'm not a numbers person, I guess is what I'm saying. Like, I know, finances and things, but I'm not like a person that'll post something and then check the analytics of the post and the time. Like, I just can't. I've been doing that shit I've been on Instagram for so long, every day posting shit, and it's really hard to get viewed now, like, for whatever reason, likes and attention. I mean, I think I know why that is. People are tired, and our attention spans are this long, and so when you're scrolling through things, even liking something takes a second. It takes too much time. And so I understand why it has to be really eye-catching and interesting for people to like pay attention, and I get that. I respect that. But it's hard, and especially when it's not really like your fault, when you're not, and I mean that, like, you're putting out good things people in the past have wanted to see. I think looking at those things fucks with your mental health, for me personally. But that's part of why I would like why big corporations hire people to do that. Like, being the doing everything yourself is exhausting. It's insane.
Yes.
It's insane. And that's why I have mad respect for people that do it, that do this work for themselves, because it is absolutely worth it. But it's not, I'm not doing everything that I could to the max of everything, but so what? Am I able to like support myself financially? Yeah. Could it be better? Yeah. But that's the struggle. That's the capitalistic world we fucking live in. It's crazy. It's So yeah, I wouldn't want people to feel like it's too late to start a business, or it's like, because it's not. It's absolutely not. Ceramics people fucking kill. I love ceramics. I'd actually really like to do it. I did it when I was a kid and I was like really fucking good at it. But, growing a ceramics business is hard. And the reason why I think businesses like that are completely handmade and unique, do so well, because they're completely unique and handmade. And they can only make 30 items a drop. And of course it's going to sell out. And then there's demand. And then there's like oh shit, they're going to sell out. And they sell out every time. And that's great. And that's wonderful. But how do you grow that without hiring other people to help you make ceramics in your style? And then and then it's like, well, she didn't actually make it. It's like that. There was a bag company that was like, they made these really cool bags, and then they were so in demand that they had to outsource. So they sold like a similar bag, their design, for like cheaper. And it sold still. But I thought that was really cool that they did that they were able to take like something handmade and like monetize on it even more, because that's a lot of work. I have ceramics friends. It's fucking, you're just constantly making shit. And I love making shit, but I think having the different cycles of, my favorite is the design phase, where I'm like, oh, I get to be creative. And like when I was drawing all the cards for that deck and like just designing shit, I really like that part. And then my baby's in production and I'm like, okay, that's kind of miss it.
How do you do like drops and launches? Are you someone who has like, a small amount and sort of does a scarcity like launch situation, or do you have things available at all times?
I mostly have things available at all times. Uh, it depends, because like I said, like when I make like a pin, or I outsource a lot and have like decks, for instance. I don't order, I don't just put out like, it's just like a lot for me to do. I understand the strategy behind that, being like, there's only 10 slots available for this. I'm just like, no, there's not. I have 100 fucking decks. Just buy them. I don't have the time to plan those things. Like for my spell spaces, I design these like they're basically round blankets. I'm doing a circle with my hands. And for those of you that are listening, And they're like my favorite thing I've ever designed. They're like portable traveling altar spaces, like worship, devotional, whatever spaces that you can take with you camping, to the picnic, whatever. And I just designed like goddess inspired ones. So I have like a Persephone blanket coming out and like a an Aphrodite blanket. And I decided to do pre-orders for those because that helps get the ball rolling and, you know, get some funds to like order them. And it's just a nice little head start. Um, and so yeah, I'm not dropping them with like, oh, there's only 50 available. It's not. You just, just fucking put it up. So I just put it up and I'm doing that like, okay, there's a special like pre-order price and you can like really good discounts for the first, for the week that the pre-order's open. There's a time frame to the pre-order because you don't leave it up forever. There's a week, you get a discount, help us get the ball rolling, boom, done. Like I think it gets a little complicated to me but it does work. The scarcity shit does work. It really does. I just don't think, to me, I'm like, I don't buy that. Like, why would my audience buy that? Because I'm like, I don't know. I just know how it works. So I'm just like, if it's a discount, like, oh, like the first 50 people to order today that's different. Yeah, I know what you're talking about though. And I'm just like, there's something there, but it's not my style. I don't think. I'm pretty transparent. I think that's my superpower and also my biggest flaw, probably, but that's just who I am. Like, I think that's why I'm successful, honestly, is that I'm able to be very relatable and grounded. And yeah, I don't pull shit like that with people. I think I don't know. Everyone's different, but that's my selling style is definitely not aggressive. That's what I'm trying to get at. I worked at Lush for a long time, and their selling style is making you approach people multiple times during their visit, even if they tell you to go away. That's not cool. That's not my style. That's not who I am. I'm not what you'd call perky. Okay. Like, I like to let people do their thing and just be there, always there. I'll be there for you. I'm just not going to get in your face about it. But that's something I've had to, check because you want to be excited about your product. So if other people are excited about your product, you can't just be like, there's a thing I made, enjoy, so yeah, it's something when you post multiple times about something, especially with emails, you have to remember that like people don't see it the way you see it. Like to me, I'm like, God, I'm fucking bothering people. Like I don't want to bug them with my shit. They're gonna unsubscribe. But like a lot of the time they're like, I didn't even see it. Or they'll see like one email out of the six that you send. Like, yeah, I think being repetitive is okay. Like I've learned that too. I'm on a total tangent. I'm sorry.
No, that's okay. We love it. That's always good advice. I mean, I tell people all the time to, send a couple emails. Keep doing it, even though we don't want to take up space.
Yeah,
Even though it's like hard for us to take up space, and we're
it
like,
is hard.
exactly. I don't want to post 2 times a day or 3 times this week or whatever because people are gonna be sick of my face. No, no, they're not.
No, they're not. No,
And if
they're
they
not.
are,
You
they're not for you.
Exactly. No, you better just put your face all up in that shit because
All
you
up.
have to be like audacious
Truly.
about you have to be audacious to do this.
Yep.
You have to be driven in some sort of way. You can't be
Yeah.
passive, I guess.
No,
But not this day and age.
no.
Not the age of let's do a TikTok dance, which is not my thing. Sorry if anyone does that, but I'm not that girl. What song is there's a song called I'm not a no, it's Britney. That's I'm not a girl, not yet a woman.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. That sure.
I'm just not that person. So you have to make up for that in other ways. I guess I have to make up for that I will not be doing TikTok trend dances. Do you have TikTok? What's your experience with TikTok?
I love TikTok. It's different. It's totally different because my, community feels very community oriented on Instagram,
Mhm.
on both my accounts. I feel like I know everyone. Like, maybe not personally, but I know a lot of people
Yeah.
personally.
Yeah,
you know?
no, totally.
And TikTok feels a little bit less community oriented, but maybe that's just like the timeline. Um, and but it's fascinating. I treat it like as a full experiment. Like I'm just like, let's just put this stuff out there, see how it goes, and then I sort of take that stuff from the TikTok that does well and put it on Instagram. And sometimes that doesn't translate. Actually, sometimes the stuff that doesn't do well on TikTok does well on Instagram because like people already know me or something. It's
Hmm.
fascinating.
Yeah, it's interesting. It feels like a foreign, like I lot like I'll make a reel by making it on TikTok. I don't know if that's the best way, but it's the way I do it. And then I like put it through TickMate or some shit that takes the watermark out, keeps the sound. Because I'm a business profile, I can't use songs on Instagram. Like it doesn't let me. I have like the free shit, but it's stupid.
Interesting.
So
You could change to a creator account if you want to.
yeah, I know.
Yeah.
I've debated that for a while.
Yeah.
But
That's
yeah, so I should
so we
probably
can.
do that. But I'm
Okay, I
like
want
afraid to because like you know what I mean? For so long I've been like this one way and I'm like, ooh, do I, you know what I mean? I'm like, I don't want to fucking piss it off or something.
to hear it. Who knows? Who knows? I want to hear about your podcast though.
Oh, so my very good friend Caitlin Grania and I do a podcast called Third Eye Bind. And Third Eye, not to be confused with the band Third Eye Blind. Um, it's fun when you Google us. It's like Third Eye. Did you mean Third Eye Blind? I'm like, no, it's a pun. So we do a podcast, vlog style podcast. So it's a video. We have a little set. There's audio and video available, and it's about different craft, witchcraft. I can't talk. Topics, and we sort of think outside the box with them and sort of examine them from all sides uh, through trickster energy. So trickster energy is looking at the norm and thinking, well, what else is there to this? And what challenges this and what else, you know? And we're both Geminis and we're both very that I'm moving my hands frantically. And for those
You
of you
must
who are
you must
listening,
have some earth in your chart though.
I'm a Taurus rising.
Okay, okay, great.
Yes, yes.
Okay,
I am a Gemini sun and moon and a Taurus rising. So that keeps me not insane.
okay,
Is that Taurus? Yes, I'm very much a Taurus presenting person.
okay.
Um, but I'm also insane. So but we're fun and we talk about important things that don't get talked about a lot and yeah, that's that's the vibe.
And where can
It's
we listen
fun.
to it?
You can listen to us on all the things that you listen to all the things on. So, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, you can watch us on YouTube. Did you know that on Spotify, if there's a video podcast, it'll play the video on Spotify?
You know, that's interesting because I did see that. Do you have to upload the video like separately?
I don't think so. I don't
Interesting.
know. My husband does all that shit, so
That's
I'll get
interesting.
back to you on that.
Get
But
back to me.
there is a visual aspect to it now.
Yeah, that's cool. I
It's
saw that
kind of
on
fun.
Call Her Daddy, so I don't
Yeah.
know. Cool. So, okay, so you can watch on Spotify and then the video comes up, but if you want to watch on YouTube, you can or on Apple
Yep.
Podcast.
It's
And
just
where
Third Eye Bind
Third Eye Bind.
or Third Eye
And where
Bind Pod. One of the two will pop up.
and where can we find you and purchase your witchy items?
We are on Instagram at Lady Moon Co. or on TikTok. I think it's Lady Moon Co. We're on Etsy at Lady Moon Company because for some reason back in the day, Lady Moon Co. wasn't available, which is dumb. It's fine. It's an abbreviation of the same thing. Um, if you want to follow me on my personal account, which is a joke, you can follow Laura Amy Wong for like zero content. Um, yeah, I think that's it mostly. Mostly Instagram. I'm around. Yeah.
And we'll put your links in the show notes so people can just click directly to the podcast as well.
Cool.
Well, thank you so much, Laura. This was an absolute pleasure to have you.
Thank you for letting me talk about business because I needed to vomit out a lot of things, and I don't get to talk about it a lot. It's not a our podcast isn't a business podcast, so I
Maybe
had a
we'd
lot
like
of
a
things to
business
say.
section.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you so
Well,
much. I
thank you
appreciate it.
so much.